People are praying for Superman to unleash his rage in the latest issue of Absolute Superman. So Absolute Superman issue 3 took place during the past and was all about Krypton's demise, ending off with Lara and Jor revealing that they built a giant spacecraft so they could all flee Krypton together. This issue, on the other hand, brings us back to present day, with Lois trying to figure out where Superman was hiding by questioning all the people who interacted with him, but none of them were willing to talk to her because she worked for Lazarus Corp. So she tried proving she was different from other Lazarus Corp employees by asking them who was responsible for giving them their wounds, promising to take care of her coworkers that were mistreating them. One of the people who was guilty of doing so was a peacemaker named Crenshaw. So when she wasn't too busy, Lois went looking for him, and once he was located, she made him pay for his wrongdoings, battering him onto the ground with an electrically charged baton, breaking the fingers in his right hand, and then informing him that he was under arrest for hurting innocent people. After this noble and simultaneously brutal gesture, some of them were willing to cooperate with her, but it didn't really help her make any progress. All of them had tried looking for Superman's whereabouts, but none of them were able to find him, indicating he was a whisper who walked among screams, and that all of them were praying for the day that he fully unleashed his rage to kill everyone in Lazarus Corp. After that, we find Lois in Pakistan, analyzing different areas that Superman had passed through, but in the midst of doing so, she was given a call by her father, an ex-Lazarus Corp general, insisting she be accompanied by a fleet of peacemakers before going into the favelas, just in case she ran into any Omega men. Firm in her decision though, Lois rejected his proposal, stating that the locals wouldn't trust her if they saw her rolling with peacemakers. And one of the things you want to take note of here is that Lois's dad has prosthetic legs, which might imply that the Omega men were the cause of this injury, thus the reason he hates them so much. Now, on another side of this issue, you have this guy named Peacemaker Smith in a Lazarus therapy session where him and other Lazarus employees sort of talk to this AI machine and express their concerns. And he wasn't really doing well mentally, saying that he almost killed some people after Superman took them down earlier because he felt like they were laughing at him. So he wanted a break from his assignments for a little while out of fear he could do some really awful things in the name of peace. Unbeknownst to him though, he wasn't talking to an AI, he was talking to Brainiac, because Brainiac is behind everything having to do with the Lazarus Corp AI system, but nobody really knows that right now. So instead of giving Peacemaker Smith some comfort and guidance, he ordered him to return to his duties immediately. After that, the story jumps back over to Lois making her way through the favelas, but eventually she realized she was being followed, so she started moving faster while simultaneously covering her tracks until sneaking behind the person who was following her, pointing a gun at the back of their head and demanding to know who they were. Soon enough, the person admitted that they were a part of the Omega Men, but promised they weren't going to hurt her. All they wanted to do was enlighten her about how Lazarus Corp was built on lies. But because Lois refused taking his words into consideration, he turned around, temporarily blinded her with his light mask, and demanded her to lower her gun. Despite being at a disadvantage now though, Lois was able to stand her ground and knock him off of his feet because she was trained to fight while blind. So the Omega member responded by sweeping through her legs and causing her to fall as well, until eventually things were brought to a stalemate. But after that, he proved he didn't want to hurt her by advising that she run, because since she didn't want to hear him out about how Lazarus Corp was corrupt, his partner Primus was gonna try taking her life. So Lois made a break for it as Primus tried blasting her out of existence, until finding a place where she was covered to call some peacemakers for backup. But when Primus caught up to her with a giant energy sword, her chances of being defeated seemed greater than none. However, moments later, none other than Superman himself blasted onto the scene, causing Primus and her partner to go flying off into the distance. After that, Primus tried telling him that the Omega Men were there to assist him in his fight with Lazarus Corp, but Supes wasn't hearing her out, shoving her to the side, walking up to Lois, and then demanding that she stop looking for him. So Lois tried conveying that all she wanted to do was talk, but again, Superman expressed he had nothing to say to her. Moments later, Lois's reinforcements arrived, including Peacemaker Smith, who would go on to ask Cal if he remembered him from their previous interaction. Calm and collected as ever though, Cal simply replied no before using his ice breath to freeze them all in place and then disappearing into the sky once again. After this incident, the comic jumps ahead with Primus slapping her partner in the face for not shooting Lois when he had the chance. But her partner, otherwise known as Jimmy Olsen, believes believed it was justified, stating that she just needed a little more time before she realized she was on the wrong side. And on the last page, we see that Peacemaker Smith most definitely needed that time off he was requesting earlier, because after being defeated by Superman for a second time, he finally snapped after breaking out of the ice, blacking out, unloading his rifle, and slaughtering a gang of nearby civilians. But sadly, that's when this issue comes to an end. But if you want to see what happens next, let me know in the comments down below.